Hello, Year 7. This is Mr. Perez.
Hello, Year 7, this is Mr. Lismus.
Uh, Today, we will be going over your landscapes and landform assessment task. We will be going over in detail the different parts of your task so that hopefully later on you can refer back to the video when you are creating your assessment task. So here we go.
So we're going to start with the stage 4 assessment task notification. This is obviously your landscapes and landforms task. So description. So part A, describe the process. In this part of the task, you'll be writing sentences describing, and describing means stating what you see and what is happening, the visual images which show the formation of one of the following. Now this is where you have to choose: limestone cave, volcano, or a volcanic crater lake. And once you've chosen, you will write down your choice on the space given. So, instructions for part A. You have been given a set of jumbled images with brief descriptions that demonstrate the creation of a landscape or landform. That basically means they're sort of arranged in a way that is totally random. You are to arrange the images into the correct order by numbering them from stages 1 to 4, with 1 being the creation, 2 being change, 3 the impact of the change, and 4 the current state. For each image, you will need to briefly describe the process occurring at that stage. Each image already has 1 sentence written, and you are to add a maximum of 3 sentences per image.
So for this part, we'll show you an example of what it will look like. So you all will be given this exemplar. This exemplar is on waterfalls. All right, so this is just to help guide you for your assessment. So here we have the 4 images. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all out of order. Again, this is for the waterfall formation. So your first step will be to put these pictures in the correct order of the landscape's formation, as you see here. So I've reordered all the steps: 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you see here on the side, I've added to the description of what's happening in the picture for the creation of the landscape. And again, I've labeled stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. This will make up part A of your assessment task. Now, the marking criteria for part A, we're just going to go over the outstanding criteria because that is the performance band which we should all be aiming for. Now, part A, the outcome being assessed in this part is GE 4-A, sequencing and interpreting images, describing the process that is occurring in the pictures. Now, to get an outstanding, you must do the following: correctly sequence and accurately labels all stages in the creation of the chosen landscape or landform. That means you put all the pictures in the correct order. Then you concisely describe the process of creation. Now, take into account the word concisely. That doesn't mean you're rambling on, but you're straight to the point and you're describing what is happening in the picture.
Now, we're going to go into part B. Now, just a reminder, that task itself, the exemplar, is not to be done for the assessment. It must be limestone cave, volcano, or volcanic crater lake. That's simply an example, so you can run off. So part B, the flowchart. In this part of the task, you will use the knowledge of the landscape or landform that you have investigated from part A. Don't do anything different, do the same one you've done, and apply it to a real-world example. You will research a landscape or landform from the table provided below and then construct a flowchart to explain the process involved in its formation. Again, a description of the verb. Explain means to write about the cause and effect of how and why something occurs. Your 3 choices available to you. Obviously, if you've chosen limestone cave, your choice would be Jenolan Caves, New South Wales, Australia. Volcanic crater lake would be Crater Lake Mount Mazama, Oregon, USA, and volcanoes would be Mount Vesuvius, Naples, Italy. So, the instructions for part B. Choose a landscape or landform from the list on your assignment sheet. You've been given several resources about your chosen landscape or landform. read through the information, and feel free to do more research. These resources are located towards the back of your assessment notification sheet. Aim to use at least 3 different sources of information and ensure you list all of your sources using the bibliography format. As you're all researching information about your landscape or landform, think about the following questions seen in the scaffold provided for Part B. Also, refer to the exemplar on waterfalls, which my colleague Mr. Perez is going through. Create a simple flowchart. Explain the 4 stages of formation that a landscape or landform has gone through in its formation. Again, like Part A, creation, change, impact of change, and current state. Your information should be written in dot points. For each stage, the maximum amount of dot points is 4. So therefore, you should have 16 dot points in total. You can't go past that amount. You can get less, but 16 is the maximum.
So part B looks like this. In part B, you will be creating a flowchart that looks like this. Now, there are different ways that you can create a flowchart. In Microsoft Word, they have several different flowcharts that you can use, or you can create one on your own, depending on what you'd like to do. So if you see here, I have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And I have my list of dot points here. Now, if you notice in my first stage, there are only 2 dot points. Remember, dot points don't necessarily have to be complete sentences. They just need to be able to explain the information that we're looking for. Now, we've also provided a scaffold for what you need to include in Part B. So these are the types of questions you need to ask yourself when you're doing your research on creation, change, impact of change, and the current state. These questions will guide your research and the information that needs to go into your flow chart. We have provided you with a list of sources for each of the different real-world examples. So we have Crater Lake sources for you to use, Jenolan Caves resources, and Mount Vesuvius. Now, these are here to guide you and have most of the information that you will need to complete your assessment. That does not mean you are only limited to these websites, but you can always do more research. The marking criteria for Part B looks like this. So the 2 outcomes will be assessed in Part B. GE 4-2 communicates geographical information using a variety of strategies. That is your flowchart. And then GE 4-8, the organization of flowchart. Now, to get an outstanding in Part B, you need to, it states, identifies the landscape or landform and accurately addresses the 4 stages: creation, change, impact of change, current state. For the second part, you need to create a clear and concise and informative flowchart which effectively explains the process of their chosen landscape or landform using dot points. This part here is about the information on your flowchart, and this one checks the organization and that you followed the dot points that you needed to follow.
Explain the formation process of your chosen landscape or landform. This is obviously for explanation response. So based on information from your flowchart, you are to write a 500-word response. So the instruction. To write your explanation, you will need your flowchart completed. So you must have finished Part A and Part B before you proceed to Part C. Your opening paragraph will briefly introduce your landscape or landform by stating its name, the type of formation, its location, and its estimated age. Number 3, for each stage in your flowchart, you will need to explain the process of what is occurring. So you must make this apparent to the marker because they can't join the dots for you. You must do that yourself. For your explanation, you will need to include more detail and information than what is on your flowchart, ensuring you address the how and why for each stage. Of course, the last one, and concluding paragraph that sums up your formation It shouldn't have any new information, but simply sum up what's already been included.
Now, for this response, you are using your flowchart and creating a response. So you're using the information you have here and you're putting all the pieces together and adding your information. Now we have given you three different types of responses: the A grade level, the B grade level, and the C grade level. Now each of these, as you can see, the A has lots of detail and lots of writing. Now we're going to go over the marking criteria to show you what a good explanation means.
Part C communicates geographical information through a clear written explanation. Clearly and accurately explains 4 stages of how the creation of their chosen landscape/landform formed. Includes a bibliography in the correct format. Now, on your very last page of your assessment notification, it has the bibliography format correctly put that way. So presenting a bibliography is the title of this very important resource. So books, YouTube videos, and websites all have different ways to reference. Now, the majority of you will all be using websites. So how it is referenced right there is how you will complete your references. Part C, G42, accurately uses geographical terms. Accurately and competently uses a large variety of relevant geographical terms. Basically, that means you're using the specific language, let's say for a volcano, talk about the magma chamber. That way you're not just referring to what it seems, but you're actually stating what it is.
Now, this is very important in any of the subjects that you take. You need to use the correct type of terms used in that particular subject. All right, we call that technical language. And the more technical language you can use precisely, the more accurate and the more clear you will be to the reader of your assessment.
Part C, G42. Now the last one, literacy features. Consistently uses accurate punctuation, grammar, and spelling. That basically means you've done a spell check before you submit a task. It's very obvious when something is done the night before or a couple hours before when this is not done properly.
Now, this is very important because these punctuation, grammar, and spelling is the essence of all writing in all the subjects you have here in high school. And it's essential that we make sure that we mark you on this because this is very important to have good literacy feature skills.
This task will assess how well you can describe a process shown in a series of visual images. Of course, describe means to state what you see and what is happening. Create a flowchart that explains the process involved in the formation of a well-known geographical landform. Again, explain means to write about the cause and effect of how and why something occurs. Now, you need to use geographic terms and concepts to explain the formation of a landscape or landform. So the outcomes to be assessed. So GE42 describes processes and influences that form and transform places and environments. GE48 communicates geographical information using a variety of strategies. Now, these two outcomes will be the basis for us to assess you. So you must fulfill them in this task to receive solid marks. Literacy outcomes. So writes informative text using evidence of structure to recount a sequence of events, to describe a person, thing, or process, uses sources to refine ideas, brackets, ideas introduced from sources to add detail, uses images to reinforce ideas in written text, uses cohesive vocabulary to indicate order, next, since as your examples.
Now, these literacy outcomes are something that you'll see in all of your classes. This is to make you more literate and up to the standard that you need to be in for year 7.
So your submission instructions. So your assessment task must be typed. Your assessment has your name and your teacher's name on it. We don't want to play detective. It must be there. Your assessment task has the 3 parts submitted, A, B, and C. Your assessment task is submitted by the due date. Assessment task policy stage 4. If you're absent on the day of an assessment task, you must submit either a doctor's certificate or have a parent or carer explain to your classroom teacher why you are not in class that day. The task should be completed as soon as practical on your return to school. If no explanation is provided, assessment tasks will be penalised 10% per day for 5 days. This means weekends, public holidays, and school holidays are included in these 5 days. After this time of 5 days, a 0 mark will be recorded. That means on the 6th day, it will be a 0. Make sure you get your tasks in on time.
Now that's the end of this tutorial video. You can use the timestamps in the comment section below to jump to different sections that you will be working on throughout that time. Now, you have 3 weeks to complete this task. Please do not wait to the last minute. You have 3 weeks, 3 sections, 1 section per week, but it shouldn't take you that long. But please get started sooner rather than later and come and ask your geography teacher or any geography teacher if you have any questions. Thank you for listening, and please watch the video.